Namo Namaha Bhavatam Sarvesham Hardam Swagatam. Welcome back to the channel Sanskrit Sopanam. I hope you are doing great. I am also good. And continuing with our video series on Krit suffixes. So this is the part 8 of the Krit suffixes videos. I hope you have seen all the previous 7 parts and all the Krit suffixes that we have covered in those parts. And in this particular video, we are taking probably one of the most important Krit suffix, and that is the suffix. Okay, so we'll be taking two suffixes, ta and tavatu. So these two suffixes we will take, but this particular one, the ta suffix, this is the probably most commonly used suffix that you encounter in Sanskrit. And so many adjectives, so many visheshana, pratipadikas that we see so often in Sanskrit, they all have been formed from some dhatu using this particular suffix only. And the reason I am taking this suffix at a later stage of this video series is so that you can see forming words using this suffix is also pretty simple, and it follows the exact same mechanism that we have so often seen in the previous videos. So if you have seen all those videos and if you have practiced with me all the example words that we have taken in those videos, then forming a word using this suffix is going to be a piece of cake. Because the exact same mechanism, exact same procedure, just few additional rules that this suffix brings in. Okay, so nothing serious, very easy to understand, and we have already practiced so much with these previous videos. So I hope it will be an easy breeze. Without wasting any more time, let's quickly dive in today's video. And again, the main topic of our video is Krit suffix. What are Krit suffix? So a quick refresher that these are the suffixes that create a new pratipadika from a dhatu. So a dhatu, when modified using Krit suffix, it creates a new nominal base. It creates a new pratipadika. Okay, so this is what our Krit suffixes are. And today in this particular part, we are taking these two Krit suffixes, the ta and tavatu. So these are the two suffixes that we will cover in this particular video. Now the question is, what kind of pratipadika do they create? Okay, so these two suffixes, they create a pratipadika of this sense, that the past action, the action has been done by the karta or the action has been performed on the karma. So this is the general meaning these pratipadikas give. Okay, and naturally when we will dive deep into them individually, so we will get the better understanding of these. So now let us start with our first suffix for today, ta suffix. And again, as I mentioned, this is probably one of the most important and one of the most commonly used suffix that you are going to encounter. Okay, so what does it denote, this suffix? So it denotes an agent who has done the action, or it can also denote an object which has been done. Okay, or it can also denote an action, simply an action which has been done. Okay, so as I mentioned before, no, that this suffix creates a pratipadika that gives the feeling of action which has been performed. Okay, that is the main function of this suffix. And what are the it letters? So this kakara, this is the it letter. And if we remove the it letter, so what remains is the main content of the suffix. This is what gets added to the dhatu. Okay, so far so good. Now let us see some required modifications. So now you see this kakara as a it letter. We have encountered this it letter before, and due to this ka as it letter, the vriddhi and guna, they are prohibited. So actually it is a good news, less work for us. Okay, no vriddhi and guna we have to perform. So another modification is being a nishtha pratyaya, ta may change into na. So this main letter ta, it may change into na. And this happens because this particular suffix, ta suffix, is a nishtha pratyaya. And actually no need to worry, this nishtha, this is just a technical name given to certain kind of things. And here, this ta and tavatu, both this pratyaya, they fall under this technical category nishtha. Okay, so this nishtha, this is just a technical name as given in the Panini Ashtadhyayi, and due to this, you have certain additional rules. Where one such rule is, the main letter, this ta of the suffix, it may change into na in some cases, that we will see in the example. Okay, and then we have another rule that nakara and makara at dhatu end, it may be dropped. Okay, and we have seen this rule before, that suppose for a dhatu like gum, so in some cases, this makara of this gum, this may be elided, this may be dropped when we are combining it with the suffix. So this is that rule. And again, when we'll see the examples, it will be more clear. But we have seen this rule happening before also in other suffixes. Okay, and lastly, optional it agama. That it agama may happen depending on what kind of dhatu we are using this suffix with. And now see, very quickly, I want all of you to just refresh the two rules of it agama. That for it agama to happen, there are two conditions. One condition has to be satisfied by the suffix, and that condition is the main content, the main letter of that suffix should start with any consonant except ya, except yakara. So one condition is satisfied, and now another condition has to be satisfied by a dhatu. that the dhatu has to be a set dhatu in order for it agama to happen. Okay, and that is why I'm writing optional it agama, that depending on the dhatu, if it is a set dhatu, it agama will happen. If it is a anit dhatu, it agama won't happen. So optional it agama. And as you can see, all the required modifications, everything we have already seen before. So maybe one or two rules here and there are different, but the general idea, the general mechanism is going to be the same as what we have seen in the previous parts also. Okay, so with this, now let us take our examples. So we have this pratipadika jnata and jnata. So this is formed using nya dhatu. Nya dhatu means to know. Okay, so if we modify this dhatu using our ta suffix, so we know the function of ta suffix, right? That if it is an agent, so one who has done the action. So one who has known. Nya means to know, so one who has known. Okay, that is one meaning it gives. And if we are using this pratipadika for a karma, for an object, so something that which has been known. Okay, so one who has known or that which has been known. That is this jnata. So nya dhatu modified using ta suffix. For ta suffix we know the main content is ta. And for nya we know there are no modifications that are going to happen because vriddhi and guna, they are prohibited due to ka as a it letter. So nya is going to remain as such, and nya and ta, we are simply going to combine them together and we get this pratipadika jnata. Simple as that. Okay, so I hope this pada, this is clear. And now if we'll move on, let us take another example, prasanna. And prasanna is a very common word for Hindi speakers. One who has become pleased, one who has been satisfied, that is prasanna. And we are creating this pratipadika from sad dhatu. See, sad dhatu, this have multiple meanings. And if you look at the Ashtadhyayi dhatu kosha, this sad dhatu means to be sad. It means to lose energy, to be dejected, to feel sad in that sense. But along with this upsarga pra, along with this upsarga, the meaning changes and the meaning becomes to be happy, to be satisfied. Okay, so this combination of upsarga and dhatu, pra plus sad, this means to be happy. And we are modifying this using taf pratyay. So since vriddhi and guna, they are prohibited, so the dhatu will remain as such, pra plus sad. And for ta pratyay, we know the main content is ta. And now when we combine them together, then this rule will apply, which we saw for a nishtha pratyay, that at some cases the ta, this may change into na. So this ta, this will become na. Okay, and when it becomes na, so another sandhi happens, that is the anunasika sandhi, due to which this dakara, this also changes into the anunasika of its varga. So this sad, this also changes into san. Okay, so what you have now is pra plus san plus this na. And then you combine them together and you get this word prasanna. One who has become pleased, one who has been satisfied. This is how we get this prasanna from this sad dhatu using ta pratyay. Okay, and see, with this same logic you have another words also, like anna. So anna means food. Again, a very common word, anna, this means food. Food is something that has been eaten. Why? Because this is coming from a dhatu, ad dhatu. Ad dhatu means to eat. Okay, and when we modify this dhatu using ta pratyay, so we have the main content as ta, right? And when they combine, so again, this ta is going to change into na, and due to the anunasika sandhi, this is also going to change into this an. And then when we combine them together, so we get this pada anna. And anna is something that has been eaten. Okay, and similarly you have another pada bhinna. Bhinna is something that has been separated, something that has been divided. And again the same logic, the dhatu is bhid dhatu. Bhid means to separate, to divide. And this dhatu modified using ta pratyay. So the ta changes into na, and then this bhid also becomes bhin. And then we combine them together, we get the pratipadika bhinna. Something that has been divided, something that has been separated. So I hope all these padas, this is clear. Now if we'll move on, so we have this pada gata. And gata again can be used in either ways. It can be used for the karta, one who has gone. And it can also be used for the karma, that which has been gone to, or basically that which has been reached. Okay, this is when we are using it with the karta, with the agent, and this is when we are using with the karma, the object. And how we are getting this pratipadika? So our dhatu is gam dhatu. Gam dhatu means to go, and we are modifying this dhatu using ta pratyay. And now this rule will come into play, that the nakara or the makara for some dhatu end, they may be dropped. So this gam dhatu, this becomes ka, because this makara is dropped, it is elided. And for this ta pratyay, we know the main content is ta. So what we do is we simply combine them together and we get the pada gata, one who has gone or that which has been gone to, that which has been reached. And again, this example is also pretty easy to understand, and following the same logic, we can make another padas also. So you have this nata, and you can already see it is coming from nam dhatu. Nam dhatu means to salute. So nata is one who has saluted, or something that has been saluted, something that has been worshipped, something that has been bowed down to. So that is this nata. Similarly, we have another pratipadika mata, which comes from man dhatu. So again, see, man dhatu means to think, to consider. And when we modify this dhatu using ta pratyay, so what happens? The nakara of this man, this is dropped. So what we are left is with this ma. And for ta, we know ta is the main content. We combine them together, we get this pada mata. And again, this can give both the meanings. If we are using it for a karta, for the agent, so one who has considered, one who has thought. And then if we are using it for an object or a karma, so something that has been considered, something that has been thought about. But this is how we get this pada from this man dhatu. Similarly, you have hata from this han dhatu. Han dhatu means to injure or to kill. So hata is one who has injured, one who has killed. And it can also mean someone that has been killed, someone that has been injured. And similarly, you have rata, which is coming from ram dhatu. Ram dhatu means to rejoice in something, right? To relish something. So rata is something that has been relished, something that has been enjoyed. Okay, so just as we saw for gum becoming gata, similarly we have these examples also. That is why I'm mentioning them here, just for you to notice. But I hope the mechanism and these rules, they are clear. Now let us move on, and now we have this pada tyakta, and this is coming from tyaj dhatu. Tyaj dhatu means to abandon. And if you modify this dhatu using ta suffix, so again vriddhi and guna, they are prohibited. So tyaj, this is going to remain as such, tyaj. And for this ta, we know the main content is ta. And when we combine them together, so we again check for any sandhi if it is happening. And here we can see one sandhi is happening, that is choho kuhu sandhi, also called as kutvam sandhi, due to which this jakara will change into the ka varga consonant. So tyaj, this will become tyag. But then if we combine them together, again another sandhi is happening, and that is chartva sandhi. And due to that chartva sandhi, this gakara, this will also become the first letter of its group, of its varga. So this tyag will further change into this tyak. So basically this tyaj, first due to chohokuhu becomes tyag, and then due to chartva sandhi becomes tyak. And then we again finally combine them together, tyak plus ta, and then we get the final pratipadika tyakta. Tyakta means one who has abandoned if we are talking about the karta, or that which has been abandoned if we are talking about the karma. Both of these sandhi rules we have seen in the same order in previous examples also so many times. Okay, so I hope all these things it is clear. And see, similar to this tyaj becoming tyakta, we can see another pratipadikas also. So you have mukta. And now you can see it is coming from much dhatu. So you have much dhatu, that means to liberate. Mukta is one who has been liberated, or something which has been liberated, something which is free. Similarly, you have yukta coming from yuj dhatu. Yuj dhatu means to join, right? To join or to associate. And yukta is something that is joined, something that is connected. Similarly, you have bhukta, that is coming from bhuj dhatu. Bhuj dhatu means to consume, right? To consume, to enjoy. And bhukta is one who has consumed, or something that has been consumed, something that has been enjoyed. That is this bhukta. And then lastly, you have this common pratipadika bhakta. Bhakta means a devotee, right? Why? Because coming from bhaj dhatu. Bhaj dhatu means to worship, right? To worship, to pray. When we modify this bhaj dhatu using ta pratyaya, again, due to chohokuhu, this bhaj first becomes bhag. And then due to kharicha, charto sandhi, this bhag further changes into bhag. And then we finally combine it with the ta of the ta pratyay, and the pratipadika we get is bhakta. So if we use this pratipadika bhakta for the karta, so one who has performed the action, so one who has worshipped, one who has prayed, and that is the devotee of a Ishwar, of a god. That is why we use bhakta. Okay, coming from bhaj dhatu. So I know the logic and the meaning is, this is clear. So now let us move on and see another kind of example, nashta. And this nashta, this is coming from nash dhatu. Nash dhatu means to be destroyed or to perish. And if we modify this dhatu using ta pratyaya, again let us see what steps will happen. So vriddhi and guna are anyways prohibited, so no change in the dhatu, and we are combining this nash with this ta. And we will check if any sandhi is possible. So there is a shatva sandhi that is happening here. And due to this shatvam sandhi, this nash, this will change into nash. This. Basically, this shakara, this changes into shakara. And then you have this ta. And then again, if we try to combine them together, now again another sandhi is happening. And that is the shtutva sandhi. And due to this shtutva sandhi, this ta, this will change into the ta. And finally, we combine nash and ta together and we get this pratipadika nashta. Nashta means one who has perished or that which has been destroyed, that which has perished. So I hope all these steps, all these sandhis we have seen before, so all these steps are also pretty easy and you get the point what we are trying to make here. And now see, just as what we saw for Nashta, we can create another Pratipadikas Drishta. This is coming from Drish Dhatu. Drish Dhatu means to see. So Drishta, this means one who has seen or something that has been seen. That is this Drishta. Okay, and the steps, the mechanism is exactly same what we saw for this Nashta, right? Again, we have another Pratipadika, Ishta. And this pada we very commonly use. We say, no, Ishta Devta. Who is your Ishta Devta? Ishta basically means someone who is desired. And why this meaning? Because the dhatu it is coming from, this is this ish dhatu. Ish dhatu means to desire. Ish dhatu means to desire something, to want something. So ishta, this means someone that is desired, someone that is wanted. And that is what we mean when we say our ishta devata. That the devata with which we connect the most. Okay, because he is the most desirous to us. So that is our ishta devata. I hope all these points, all these steps, it is clear so far. And now let us move on and take another example, Shuddha. So see, if you see this Pratipadika, it is so common word in for Hindi speakers, Shuddha. Shuddha means one who has become purified, or Shuddha means that which has been purified. So it is such a common word, Shuddha. And now you know that how we are getting this Pratipadika. We are getting this Pratipadika from the dhatu Shuddha dhatu. So Shuddha dhatu means to become pure, to become clean. That is this Shuddha dhatu. And if we modify this using ta pratyay, so for ta pratyay we know the main content is ta. And again, since guna and vriddhi they are prohibited, so shuddh, this will remain as such. When we combine them together, so we will check for if any sandhi is happening. And between shuddh and ta, we have a dhatvam sandhi that is happening, due to which this takara, this will change into dha. That is this dhatvam sandhi. So now you have shuddh plus dha. And again, another sandhi is happening, that is jashtva sandhi, due to which this dhakara, this will change into the third letter of its varga. So this dha will become da. So now what you have is shuddh plus dha. And then again, if we try to combine them, now no more sandhi is possible. So we simply combine them together and we get the Pratipadika Shuddha. And Shuddha, again, Shuddha means to become pure. So Shuddha means one who has become pure, who has become purified, or something which has been purified. So these consecutive sandhi rules also we have seen in our previous examples, in our previous videos, right? And see, since I don't want to deviate your attention from this mechanism, that is why I don't go deeper into the sandhi rules. I mention the sandhi names. You have the sandhi sheet, I've shared it with you. So in your own time, if you have any confusion that what just happened here, what was that sandhi? So you have the names, you have the sutras, you can refer to that Ashtadhyayi sutra list also that I share, the sandhi rules also, and you can check for your own self. Okay, so to avoid any overload of information, I just keep it simple. I just mention the sandhi names. In your own time, you can refer to those sandhi rules if you are not familiar with them. But this is the steps that we are getting to create a Pratipadika from a dhatu using a suffix. And see, just as what we saw for Shuddha, again we can create another Pratipadikas also like Buddha. So when we modify Buddha dhatu using ta pratyay, the steps are exactly same as what we saw for Shuddha. So similarly we get the Pratipadika Buddha. Buddha means to know, to understand. So when we use this Pratipadika for an agent, for the Karta, we are saying one who has known, one who has understood. That is this Buddha. Okay, and similarly you have Siddha. So Siddha is one who has accomplished. Why? Because it is coming from Siddha dhatu. Siddha dhatu means to accomplish. So Siddha is someone who has accomplished or something that has been accomplished. That is this Siddha. And then similarly we have this Labdha coming from Labh dhatu. Labh dhatu means to gain, to obtain. So Labdha is that which is gained, which is obtained. That is this Labdha. Labh plus ta, same thing happens. That first this ta, this becomes dha due to dhatvam sandhi. And then this labh, this becomes labh due to the jashtva sandhi. And then we combine them together, we get the Pratipadika Labdha. Something that has been obtained, something that has been gained. So I hope all these similar examples are also clear. And now let us move on and see this pada Pathita coming from Pat dhatu. Pat dhatu means to study, right? And we are modifying this dhatu using ta pratyay. Again, no guna or vriddhi, they are prohibited. So Pat, this will remain as such. And from ta, we get this ta as the main content and we are trying to combine them together. But here pay attention. This Pat dhatu, as we have seen before also, is a set dhatu. It is a set dhatu. So it agama that was optional, this will happen here. Because we know our suffix, it already satisfies the condition. It is only up to the dhatu. If it is a set dhatu, the it agama will happen. So Pat dhatu is our set dhatu. It agama will happen. What is it agama? So it is just a additional e. between dhatu and suffix. So this additional e is the it agama. So what you have is pat, e, ta. And when we combine them together, no sandhi is happening here. So they simply combine into pathita. Okay. Pat means to study. So if we are using it for a karta, for an agent, so one who has studied. And if we are using it for a karma or object, so that which has been studied. Both the meanings are given by this pratipadika pathita. Okay. So I just took this example so as to remind you that this optional it agama, this will happen if the dhatu is set dhatu. All the dhatus that we saw before, they were all anit dhatu. So the it agama is what was not happening. But this pat dhatu is a set dhatu. So it agama happened. We got an additional e between dhatu and suffix, and the pada is pathita. Okay, so now let's move on, and we have this pada ukta. Ukta means one who has said, or it can also mean one who has been spoken to. Okay, again, if we are associating this word ukta with the karta, with the agent, so one who has spoken. And if we are associating this pada ukta with the karma, with the object, so this means one who has been spoken to. So that is this ukta. And this ukta comes from vach dhatu. Vach dhatu means to say, to speak. In that sense, very common dhatu. And this is being modified using ta suffix. So if we move on, vriddhi and guna, it is prohibited for the dhatu. So vach will remain as such. And from ta, we get this as the portion that gets added to the dhatu. But now pay attention, because something interesting, something peculiar happens with this particular dhatu. And what happens is this va, this vakara of vach, this gets replaced by this u, by this vowel u. And now before moving forward, there is something I want to introduce here. See, you may have noticed this thing while studying Sanskrit, Shabd Rupas, different word forms, that there seems some connection between certain vowels and certain semi-vowels. For example, there seems some connection between e and ya. Similarly, between u and va. And similarly, between ri and ra. Okay, because when we see certain examples like kavi, so you have this pratipadika, ikarant pratipadika, kavi. So kavi in prathama vibhakti bahuvachanam becomes kavayah. But similarly, this guru, this is a ukarant pada. Guru in prathama vibhakti bahuvachanam becomes guravah. So see what is happening. Kavi becomes kavayah, guru becomes guravah. A e is getting replaced by a yah, another u is getting replaced by a vah. Similarly, if you see another vibhakti also, say chaturthi vibhakti ekvachanam. So kavi in chaturthi vibhakti ekvachanam becomes kavaye. Again, kavi is changing into kavaye. But then if I ask you that what is guru in chaturthi vibhakti ekvachanam, so guru is gurave. So you see the connection that for e you are getting a ya, for u you are getting a va. Similarly, there is also a connection between ra and re. And then the similar kind of connection you may have noticed while studying yan sandhi also, that when there is ikara, so you get a yakara. When there is a ukara, so you get a vakara. And when there is a rikara, you get a rakara. Okay, so the main point I'm trying to bring your attention to is there is a certain kind of connection between these ik vowels and these yan letters, right? Now, whenever these ik vowels, they replace these yan letters, then these ik vowels are given a technical name, and that name is samprasaranam. Okay, so for instance, in an example here, vach dhatu, this vakara, when it is getting replaced with this u, this ukara, so this ukara will be given a technical name samprasaranam, because this vowel is replacing a certain semi-vowel. Okay, so this technical term samprasaranam, I hope this is clear. Now why I'm telling you this is, see, there is another sutra that says that for certain dhatus, when they are followed by a kit suffix. Now what is a kit suffix? So very easy to understand. Any suffix that has a ka, that has a kakara as a it letter, then that suffix can be called as kit suffix. Okay. So there are certain dhatus, around 11 dhatus, 11 verbal roots. When these dhatus are followed by any kit suffix, so this samprasaranam, this change happens. So see, according to what I just mentioned, there are certain dhatus, and vach is one such dhatu. So there are certain dhatus when they are followed by a kit suffix. And why this ta suffix is a kit suffix? Because it has a ka, it has a kakara as a it letter. So this suffix can be called as kit suffix. So similarly, all these suffixes can also be called as kit suffix, because twa, tavatu, tin, all these suffixes also has a kakara as a it letter. Okay, so when certain dhatus are followed by a kit suffix, so this samprasaranam change happens. And what is this samprasaranam change? That the semi-vowel that is present in that dhatu is replaced by its consecutive ik vowel. And as to what replaces what, so we know this relation that a yakara is replaced by a e, a vakara is replaced by a u, and a rakara is replaced by a re. Okay. And that is why when we had this vach plus ta, so this change happens and this va is replaced by u. So vach, this becomes uch. So now in the equation we have uch plus ta. And now before combining them, again we will check if any sandhi is happening. So we have a sandhi that is happening here. So it is a kutvam sandhi, chohokuhu sandhi, due to which this chakara, this will be replaced by the ka varga letter. So basically this uch will further change into this uk. Okay, this is a shortage of space, but I hope you can see this. And you have this ta. And then when we finally combine this uk plus ta, no more sandhi is possible. So you get this pada ukta from vach dhatu. And now since you are aware of this change, so suppose you have to modify vach dhatu using twa suffix. So similar kind of thing will happen, that the samprasaranam will happen for this dhatu vach dhatu, and due to that this va will get replaced by the u. So vach changes into uch, and then from twa you know what you have twa. And now before combining them, again the kutvam sandhi, chohokuhu sandhi will happen, due to which this uch, this will change into uk, and then you have this twa. And then you finally combine and you get the final pratipadika as uktva. And uktva is after speaking, after saying, because that is what tva pratyaya signifies, after doing the action. Okay, and the reason I am mentioning these examples is because when we see such padas, uktva or ukta, then it may create a confusion as to how this pada is coming from vach dhatu. But now you know. And in this similar tone, let's take another pada, supta. Supta is one who has slept. That is this supta. And this pada is coming from swap dhatu. Swap dhatu is to sleep. And when we modify this dhatu using ta suffix, so again this samprasaranam change will happen. Because I told you that there are certain specific dhatus. There are actually 11 dhatus, 11 verbal roots that undergo this samprasaranam change. Vach was one such dhatu and swap, this is also one such dhatu. So when we modify swap dhatu with a kit suffix, so samprasaranam change will happen, due to which this va, this will be replaced by this u, right? So this swa, this will change into su. Okay, because this u will combine with this half sa, so it will become su. Okay, so swap, this becomes sup. And then from ta, we know ta is what gets added. So we have this in the equation now. And now no sandhi is happening here, so we simply combine them together and we get this pada supta, one who has slept. Okay, so very quickly, just let me repeat what we saw in this in these last two examples. That there are certain dhatus, to be precise, there are 11 dhatus, 11 verbal roots. When these dhatus are followed by any kit suffix, when these dhatus are followed by any suffix that has a ka, a kakara as a it letter. So suffixes like twa, tavatu, tin, twa. So all these suffixes are kit suffix because they have ka as a it letter. So when these certain 11 dhatus, they are followed by a kit suffix, so a samprasaranam change happens. And what is a samprasaranam change? That the semivowels present in those dhatus are replaced, are substituted by the ik vowels. So the ya is replaced by e, the va is replaced by u, and the ra is replaced by ri. Okay, so this is what we saw in the last two examples of ukta and supta, and I hope you got this entire point. And with these many examples, I think the suffix is covered. See, there can be a lot of other examples also, but these many examples are enough to cover different kinds of dhatus that are going to be combined with the suffix, and different kind of sandhi, internal sandhi rules that are going to modify that dhatu. So that is why I take these particular examples. I hope these many examples are clear to give you an idea of what does this ta suffix do. And now let us move on and see another example, another suffix, tavatu suffix. And this particular suffix is pretty straightforward to understand. What does it denote? So the main thing it denotes is the agent who did. Agents who did the action. Okay, again giving us the flavor of the action being performed, the past action. So the pratipadikas that we get using tavatu pratyaya with the dhatu, this is what it majorly denotes. Agent who did the action. Okay, what are the it letters? So this kakara and this u, these are the it letters. And if we remove the it letter, so whatever remains is this tavat. And this is the main content that gets added to the dhatu. Okay, and now the required modifications. So again, this is exactly same as what we saw for the ta pratyaya. That due to this ka as it letter, the vriddhi and guna, they are prohibited. Then since this suffix also is a nishtha pratyaya, so ta at some cases may change into na, what we saw in the previous suffix And also the nakara and makara at the dhatu end may be dropped. This also as we saw in the previous suffix examples. And lastly, optional it agama, because again the main content is starting with any consonant except yakara. So suffix is satisfying the condition of it agama, then it is up to dhatu. If it is a set dhatu, this it agama will happen, otherwise it won't happen. So the optional it agama, again all these required modifications are exactly same as what we saw for this ta pratyay. So now let us quickly take few examples of this tavatu pratyay because fairly easy to understand. So see, we have this pratipadika nyatavat. So we have nya dhatu, that means to know, modified using tavatu pratyay. Again, Vriddhi and Guna prohibited, so no change is going to happen. Nya will remain as such, and from tavatu, the main content we get is tavat. And we simply combine them together, we get the pratipadika nyatavat, one who has known. And if we move on, we take another example, Shrutavat. And again, as for the steps, so Shru dhatu getting modified using tavatu pratyay, the main content is tavat. So we simply combine them together and we get this pratipadika Shrutavat, one who has heard. If we move on, we can take another example, Kritavat. And again, fairly easy. Kri dhatu means to do, and when it is modified using tavatu pratyay, so we simply combine kri plus tavat. So kritavat, this means one who has done. And in the normal sambhashanam, it simply means one who did. Simple as that. See, one very common use of tavatu pratyay is to replace the use of lang lakara. See, suppose I take a dhatu for example, kri dhatu. Kri dhatu means to do. And now if you will check the lang lakara form of kri dhatu, so again you will have total 9 forms. Okay, the prathama purush, madhyama purush, uttama purush, ekvachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam. So you will have the matrix of 3 by 3, total 9 forms for this kri dhatu in lang lakara. So suppose I have to say he did. So I will use the prathama purush ekvachanam form, right? So the Sanskrit sentence will be saha akarot. But then if I have to say those two did, so I will use the prathama purush dvivachanam form. So I will say tau akurutam. And similarly, as per to whom I am talking about, whether it is a third person, second person, or the uttama purush first person, and how many of them are there. So according to that, I have to choose the appropriate form, appropriate kriya pada. But this entire multitude of forms, these can be replaced by using this tavatu pratyay. See, when I modify kri dhatu using tavatu pratyay, so I get the pratipadika kritavat. And this kritavat in prathama vibhakti ekvachanam have the forms like kritavan, kritavantau, kritavantah. So these three prathama vibhakti forms, kritavan, kritavantau, kritavantah, they can potentially replace all these lang lakar forms of kri dhatu. And that is why we use this tavatu pratyay in the normal conversation, in spoken Sanskrit, in Sanskrit sambhashanam. So if I have to say Ramaha did, so I can simply say Ramaha kritavan. If I have to say you did, so I can say tvam kritavan. And if I have to say I did, so I can say aham kritavan. Similarly, if I have to say that you all did, so see, if I am using the lang lakara form, then I have to specifically choose the madhyama purush bahuvachanam form, that is akuruta. And then I can make the sentence that yuyam akuruta. Okay, you all did. But if I am using this tavatu pratyay forms, so simply I have to see how many people are there. There are you all did, so bahuvachanam. So I'll simply pick the prathama vibhakti bahuvachanam. So kritavan, kritavanto, kritavantah. So my sentence will be yuyam kritavantah. Similarly, if I am saying we all did, so I can simply say vayam kritavantah. They all did, so I can simply say te kritavantah. So I hope you're getting this point, that using tavatu pratyay with any dhatu, it potentially can replace the use of lang lakara. And then that becomes so much easier because otherwise we have to remember all the 9 forms for lang lakara, that 3 by 3 matrix table. But if you are using tavatu pratyay, all we have to remember is the prathama vibhakti ekvachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam form. Simply these 3 forms we have to remember and we are set. We can use with any person. We just have to see what is the number, ekvachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam, that is all. So that is the use of, that is a very popular, very common use of tavatu pratyay in spoken Sanskrit, in Sanskrit sambhashanam. So I just wanted to mention this point to you so that if you are trying for Sanskrit sambhashanam, you can make use of this tavatu pratyay. So if we move on, we have another pratipadika, pathitavat. Pathitavat coming from pat dhatu, that means to study, modified using tavatu pratyay. So we know the main content is tavat here. Okay, and before combining them together, we will check if any modification is happening. And again, the it agama, this will happen. Why? Because as we saw before, pat, this is a set dhatu. So it agama will happen and additional e will come between the dhatu and the suffix. So when we finally combine them together, we get this pratipadika patitavat, one who has studied. Okay, simple as that. So again, see, if we have covered ta pratyay, so covering tavatu pratyay, it is a breeze. It is very easy to understand. And even such examples are very easy to understand because we have gone through all the internal sandhi rules also. See, when we see this pratipadika drishtavat, so we know it is coming from drish dhatu. Drish dhatu means to see. If modified using tavatu pratyay, this is what we get, right? And now before combining them, we know we have to check for any internal sandhi that is happening. And we can see there is a shatvam sandhi that will happen here, due to which this shakara will change into shakara. We just saw in the previous example before. So this drish, this will change into drish. And then you are combining it with tavat. And then again another sandhi will happen. That is the shtutva sandhi. The same example as we saw before. So this tavat, this becomes tavat. The ta basically changes into this ta. And then we finally combine them together and we get this pratipadika drishtavat, one who has seen. Drish means to see. So drishtavat, one who has seen. Okay. So since we have already seen so many examples with the ta pratyay, these many examples are enough for tavatu pratyay. The mechanism, the internal sandhi rules, everything is just the same. Okay. Just one thing to see here, the pratipadikas that are formed using this tavatu pratyay. So this is a takarant pratipadika. As you see, pathitavat, shrutavat, kritavat. So these are all takarant pratipadika. And the way they decline, the way they have their vibhakti forms is exactly same as the pada bhagavat or bhavat. So the way these bhagavat, these pratipadikas decline, in the same way this kritavat, this pathitavat, these kind of pratipadikas also decline. So for bhagavat, you know the prathama vibhakti ekvachanam is bhagavan. So similarly for kritvat, the prathama vibhakti ekvachanam will be kritavan. Okay, this is for pullinga and napumsaklinga. If you're talking about strilinga, so you just add a dirgha e. So kritavat, this becomes, the pratipadika becomes kritavati if you're talking about the strilinga. So again, the same kind of declensions that we see for Bhagavat, that is going to happen. But anyways, this was it for this part. And I will just create one more part where whatever Krit suffixes I intended to cover, that I will wrap up in the this next part that I will bring. And after that, we will start Tadhita Pratyaya maybe, that we will see. But I hope the session was fun. You learned something. I'll meet you with some another video. Until then, stay awesome, stay happy, keep learning Sanskrit. Vayam punha milamaha. Dhanyavad.